Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Through Black and White Eyes for a special show. We've got the legend John Gibson waiting to come in and have a chat with us. Really looking forward to this. A little bit nervous as well. He's a bit of a legend. Very lucky to have this show. Thanks to Ian Walker again, who obviously collared him in a taxi and said, "Do you fancy coming on a show?" And he dropped him in it. We'll just quickly get through the chat comments and then we'll get him in. Welcome to a special stream for Through Black and White Eyes with the godfather of North East sports journalism, Gibbo. Well said, Leslie. Please adhere to standard community guidelines, keep comments respectful and enjoy the show. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. It's all free. You know the crack, guys. Bottom right-hand corner, all that sort of stuff. Evening, Gary. Great to see you in the chat. Magpie Stew's in there as well. Leslie's still chatting on to Gary and Magpie Stew. Blades made it in the house as well. Fantastic. And as obviously Mr. Gibson's given up his special time, you know, we donate everything we do to charity. This is how much we've raised so far since the channel started. This month's profit and any donations tonight will be donated to a charity that Mr. Gibson chooses for himself, which will donate on the 25th or 26th of next month when we get paid from YouTube and all that sort of stuff. So without any further ado, let's bring the man in. Good evening.
How are you? Nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm very well, and thank you so much for doing this. It's gonna be a good chat. I've seen you a few times. You probably won't obviously remember, but I remember Whitley Bay, Berkeley Tavern. You did one with John Beresford.
Funny enough, you mentioned about yes, I do remember it now ever so well. And of course, this is a special week to be on a Newcastle United show, isn't it?
It is. I don't think we could have picked a perfect week, could we?
Oh dear. I mean, I keep every morning I pinch myself to make certain I didn't dream it last night. You know, it is real. Yes, we did do that. We did make it. Absolutely fabulous. I don't know if I want to play again because I don't want to spoil the dream. You know, I just want to keep on living it.
I absolutely agree. I'm a bit gutted they're not doing the parade at the end of the season. I thought they should have left it personally myself. I don't know what you feel about it.
I can understand totally where you're coming from. The League Cup's quite unique, isn't it? Because normally it's after the FA Cup and that's the end of the season and you have your parade and then that's it. Here we've had this the minute we won the cup, it was an international break. So no players sort of come back home permanently. They were all over the place. We've sort of lived in a dreamland ever since. Suddenly we've got the parade and everything on Saturday. And then we've got to get down to business, Barry, because there's 10 games left, and these 10 games can make next season if we're getting the Champions League.
Exactly. We could have been celebrating a double celebration. Champions League football is celebrated amongst Arsenal fans and all them lot. They call it the trophy, don't they, when they finish in the top four? So we could
absolutely. I mean, you know, it's difficult, isn't it? Because normally when you win something, it's the end of your season and you've gone out on a high. We've got to start all over again. But what I'm hoping is that it'll relax everybody at St. James's, all the boys. We've got our first domestic trophy in 70 years. We're into Europe, albeit it's the UEFA Conference League, but we've got 1 foot. We can do better than that, Europa Cup or the Champions League. But, you know, and the matches, you no doubt you've had a look at them, Barry, and everybody else has. The matches are quite a good running. 3 of the next 4 are at home, and the one away is at Leicester.
Yeah.
Great chance. Great.
Huge chance. I still think we're going to do it. I really do. I don't think we've finished below 6, which means we've got Europa Conference, but 5th is Champions League. I don't think that's out of the realms of any possibilities.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. And I mean, good gracious, if we play anything near the way we played at Wembley in the remaining games, and I know that's almost asking the impossible, that intensity for an hour and a half plus every game for 10 games, you ain't going to get that. That's utopia. But if we play anything like that, we can beat anybody. I mean, you realize if you look at it, Barry, we won the League Cup. We beat Liverpool in the final. We beat Arsenal home and away in the semi-finals. And we beat Nottingham Forest and Chelsea before that. That's the current 4 top teams in the Premier League. So we fluked it, didn't we? It was a fluke. We won the cup.
Well, all the other teams played half their sides, is what I kept getting told, and all the Mackhams who were in there, and all of our TikTok stuff.
Well, I tell you what, the Mackhams should be so lucky. They should keep quiet after the FA Cup last year, you know.
They definitely should. I mean, I'm getting people from on their side going, "We won the Pizza Cup." I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Oh, we've waited 70 years and it suddenly doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I just keep coming back and saying, right now, at this stage of events, Barry, what has Arsenal won? Nothing.
Well, FA Cup 4 years ago, didn't they? That's their gleaming light.
Manchester City look as if they're imploding, having been magnificent, of course, but they look as if they're imploding. I mean, Manchester United are just a mess.
A joke.
I mean, just a mess. And Chelsea buy so many players, they don't know where to put the rest of them. I mean, there's just a shed load of them. So we can stand amongst our competitors with our head held high. We're not, we're not like anymore. We're not the kids looking in the tuck shop window with our nose pressed against the window, wishing we could get at the goodies. We've been in there and nicked a few goodies ourselves.
And we also beat Forest twice, home and away. In the league, and look where they are.
We beat Forest 3 times this season, and we beat Arsenal 3 times this season. You know, yes, we've got to admit, between me and you, and don't tell anybody else, we've had a bit of an up and down season, and we've got our backside smacked a couple of times at home off sides that haven't been so great. But I tell you what, when we say go, we're a good side. And the way Eddie tactically set us up in the semi-final against Arsenal and in the final to take advantage of Liverpool, because this side lost 1 out of 29, Barry, in the Premier League this season. 1 out of 29. And I mean, we absolutely bullied them. We bullied them. I mean, you know, take, for example, we were supposed to be very vulnerable on our left side because we'd lost Lewis Hall and we'd lost Andy Gordon. All of a sudden, we're vulnerable on the left side. Who plays over there? Mo Salah. So immediately you think, oh dear me, what's this going to happen? Honest to goodness, I mean, nobody must have told Livramento he was playing on his wrong side, because he didn't look at all apprehensive about it. And we never saw Mo Salah because he was in the back pocket of Tino. Never saw him during the game. And the midfield was awesome. Their strength, Barry, is the midfield. Salah get the goals, but the platform for everything they do is McAllister and the 2 other guys in the midfield. Our 3, who are pretty useful on the day, Bruno, Tonali, and Big Joe, our 3 absolutely bullied them.
They did. They absolutely outran them. It was joy to watch, wasn't it? I'm still pinching. I really am.
I mean, Barry, I would have because of the way we've been in big competitions. I mean, I've been to 5 Wembley finals since when I was a little lad in the 50s, with short trousers and legs dangling off the seat, not reaching the bottom of the floor. When I saw them win 3 times in 5 years, I thought, this is going to be a wonderful life when I grow up. Like, you know, it's just going to be fabulous. Never had won a thing since, apart from the European thing. But I mean, I look back, 5 Wembley finals I'd been, 74, 76, 98, 99, and a couple of years back in the League Cup. And we'd lost every one. We'd scored 1 goal in 5 appearances. And to be truthful, there were occasions when I felt a little bit humiliated by the performance we put on. You know,
I agree.
And I would have took 1-0 with an own goal in the 89th minute to get the cup against Liverpool. What did we do? We absolutely marmalised them. We outplayed them from the first kick to the last kick. And if there was ever a flattering scoreline, it was 2-1.
It was, wasn't it? Very flattering.
Flattered them. It was never that close. Never that close.
Absolutely agree. All right, I've got a few little things we're going to talk about tonight. Obviously, we want to talk about your career first of all. You've had a sparkling career, so I'd like you to take us. Like, how first of all did you get into journalism? What made you go down that avenue?
It's funny, really, and it's hard to put your finger on it. But as a little lad, I was brought up in Benwell, the west end of Newcastle, and all my schoolmates wanted to play for Newcastle United.
Oh, we all did.
like everybody did, but amazingly except me.
Oh,
I
right.
wanted to write about Newcastle United, and I don't know why. And I was brought up by my granddad and my grandma, and they made me a little scrapbook, which was just brown paper, folded over in half, and my mother, which is my grandmother, sewed up the side. And I used to cut photographs out of the paper, stick them in this little scrapbook, and then write some words underneath about that player. Amazingly, my daughter gave me the scrapbook stayed in the family. My daughter's given me, and it's upstairs in the room here. I've still got it to this day.
Brilliant.
And written in pencil is things like, because I'm tiny, like, there's things like Joe Harvey, he's a very good player. This is which really set me up to be a good journalist, didn't it? Can you think of a worse sentence than that? But I mean, that's always what I wanted to do. And I wrote to every weekly paper in the area when I was about to leave school, asking for a job. 99% of them never even replied. The Hexham Caravan did reply. I went up for an interview. I remember I sat in Hexham Abbey waiting because I was 10 minutes early, the train, waiting to go over for the interview. And everybody said I was praying for a job, and I probably was. But I got the job, and the highlight of the week for me was on the Saturday, because you had to report on everything. On the Saturday, I reported on Hexham Hearts or Hexham GPO, one of the local teams, and I had a full week to write my report because it was a weekly paper till the next week. And I always remember the Chronicle coming for me while I was on the Caravan and trying to poach me for the Chronicle. And they wanted me as a news reporter because I was doing everything on the Caravan. And I said, no, I won't go. I want to be a sports journalist. And they said, well, come on the news side and then you can transfer to sport. But I knew once you got into the news side, you wouldn't transfer to sport. They would keep you on. So I refused to go, which was a bit of a cheek. But I've always been a bit of a cheeky lad. And
right decision.
I waited, and the job come, and I come back down. And my first jobs as a kid with the Chronicle was covering Newcastle reserves at St James's Park, which they played on a Saturday afternoon in those days. And then I graduated to reporting on Gateshead, which is where one of my loves, my second love after Newcastle United, is Gateshead. And I reported non-league for them. And I always felt, Barry, that I wanted to go. It's so stupid and naive, but I wanted to go to Fleet Street, because I thought all doctors go to Harley Street, all journalists go to Fleet Street. I want to go to Fleet Street, and sure enough, I did. And I got a job, and I never intended to come back, as it happened. And then, that was going to be my life and make it as big as I could and all that sort of thing. And then out of the blue, after about a couple of years in Fleet Street, the Chronicle come on and offered me the Newcastle United job. And I thought, all of a sudden, I thought, oh, dearie me, how do you say no to your heart's desire? So I thought, Shy Ben's getting out, I'll be tricky. And so I said to them, I would I'd love that. But if I come back, I would want to cover all the World Cup finals and all the Olympic Games, which is every 2 years I would have a big trip. Now, they said, well, we'll have a think about it and we'll come back to you. And I thought, they're going to come back and say, up yours. And I'm going to say, it was worth a try. Yes, I'm coming home. Unbelievably, they said, yes, you can do that. So, in how I remember it, last of the long story, I'm waffling far too much here, but how I remember it is I come back from Fleet Street in 1966, in the May, just after the season ended. And the first job I did before I started with Newcastle in the August was to cover the World Cup in 1966. I covered the bit up here, which was North Korea and Italy and Russia, and then I tagged on to England. So I started the Chronicle 1966. England win the World Cup, and I'm following England for the rest of my time.
Wow.
66 win the World Cup. 68 Newcastle start the season 68-69, where they win a European trophy. So again, I'm thinking,
you're rubbing your hands on it.
I'm going to enjoy myself. Ever since, until last Sunday, neither Newcastle or England had won a solitary single thing. it turned out to be a fabulous life, didn't it? Actually, it did. But I hadn't won a salty single thing. So you can imagine how elated I was on
Brilliant.
Sunday.
Absolutely brilliant. What was the first story you wrote for the Chronicle in Newcastle?
Great question. Because I think one of the very first things I did for the Chronicle was write a piece about Jackie Milburn, who wasn't playing then. He was a journalist himself. He sat in the press box with us. But he'd been my hero, Barry. When I was little, in watching Newcastle win the cup 3 times in 5 years, etc., etc. You know what we're like. Number 9 scores like the goals, runs like the wind. He'll do for me, and so he was my hero. And then you met him, and they always say, don't they? Don't meet your hero because you'll be disappointed. You'll be disappointed. I mean, you couldn't be disappointed with Jackie. He was just the loveliest guy could wish to me. And you know what? I mean, most superstar footballers know they're superstar and they've got a swagger and they're not big-headed, but they know how good they are. I mean, my dear mate after that, Malcolm MacDonald, he had more swagger than John Wayne, and he knew he was Mr. Big, and he had champagne and he had a cigar, and I loved all that. Jackie was, and I mean, Alan Shearer wasn't a shrinking violet as a guy. He knew how good he was and still does, and so does Superman. But actually, Jackie was embarrassed about how good he was. And when somebody come up for an autograph and that, you wanted to give it, and he was very courteous and everything, but he was embarrassed. He didn't know how to handle fame, and that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, some people don't though, do they?
No. Mind you, there's also some people that haven't got fame, but think that would have come. I'm thinking of footballers. I've come across a few with them in my time as well.
I bet.
They're only a legend in their own lunchtime,
That's brilliant. You say never meet your heroes. I mean, I've met 2 of mine. I've met Peter Beardsley and I've met Kevin Keegan. Very fortunate to meet them, and they're just such lovely people. And I honestly think that term is probably more for people down south. I think in the northeast, if you meet anyone who's big, they're all humble. They all know the roots. They all will give you a bit of time, won't they?
And we've been blessed with some wonderful players. We might not have won much since the 50s, apart from that one season in Europe, but we've been blessed when you think of Shearer, and when you think of Beardsley, and when you think of Gaza. And Waddle, and I mean, wonderful, fabulous Les Ferdinand, Ginola, wonderful. I mean, when I say it like that, Barry, why didn't we win anything? when players of that quality, it's amazing, really, isn't it?
It's well, down to managers, isn't it? Really, unfortunately. Which is a shame. My dad's hero is Malcolm MacDonald, so obviously you get the pleasure of speaking to him a lot. My dad doesn't, and he loved him. He was just like you were Milburn. He was with him. My hero was Peter Beardsley growing up, so mine's a little bit. Mine wasn't a number 9. Mine was number 8. So
yes,
but different.
Peter Beardsley. I mean, he could play anyway. I mean, I'm certain if he'd wanted to play in goal, well, he once did at West Ham.
He did, once.
And he insists to me that he had a great game. I said, wait a minute, we lost 8-odd and you let 3 goals in, Peter. But he insists that he had a great game. He nutmegged the centre forward at one time. As a goalkeeper, come out and nutmeg the man. Only you would try to do that. But I mean, he was absolute quality. Absolute quality, because he could do a bit of everything. We love players that make goals and we love players that take goals. But he did both those things.
Oh, he was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. I just, when I watched him at Everton, when we were literally coming into the Premier League, we've got to sign him back. We've got to get him back. And we did. It was just, what the hell is going on? We're cooking. And then that partnership with Andy Cole was very special, wasn't it? We're gone off topic completely, haven't we?
Just to finish that one thing on Peter, you can't believe, and I can't believe to this day, Barry, that nobody wanted this kid. When he was a kid at Wallsend Boys Club, he couldn't buy a club. He got down, he was sent to Oxford and got sent home. It's too small, etc., etc. I mean, he was touted round the clubs with Steve Bruce. Steve Bruce eventually found Gillingham, and this guy couldn't find a club until Bob Moncur, who was managing Carlisle, come along and took him to Carlisle, and then from there he flew. But can you believe? I mean, if I was at Oxford today, an Oxford United fan, and I thought we turned down Peter Beardsley, who we could have had for out, I mean, you would want to cut your throat, wouldn't you? You would think, oh dear.
God, it's happened to us a few times, hasn't it? Aubameyang, we could have had him. He was scouted around the Times and stuff like that. Obviously, again, poor chairmans, poor managers, all that sort of stuff gets in the way, doesn't it? Going back to your career, obviously, 1966 World Cup was amazing. You obviously saw Maradona, all that sort of stuff later on in your career as a journalist. Who did you speak to in 1966? Though the Charltons, did you get to speak to them and do?
Yeah, well, I mean, they both become very close friends. But I mean, obviously, because they were from Ashington, and it was Geordie boys, and I was close to Jackie Milburn. They were part of Jackie's family, and they used to, as kids, get on the bus at Ashington, come down to St James's Park, get off, go and have their dinner in the British home stores in town, go up to watch the match, stood on the popular side to watch Uncle Jackie play. Afterwards, they would come out the ground, and right across the road from St James's was New St James's Hall, which was a boxing booth, a boxing arena, and they used to watch the wrestling on a Saturday night, and then they got the last bus back at 9:30 to Ashington, and either Bob, the dad, or Sissy, the mum, met them off the bus, and they went home. And that's when Newcastle played at home. That's what they did the whole time. And I mean, I worked with both of those separately on talkings up here. Vastly different people. I mean, really, they looked exactly the same facially. Exactly, but very, very different people. I mean, you know, Jack was the typical Northumberland fisher, shooter, bird nester as a kid, etc., etc. Bobby was once described to me by Sissy's mum, who was the loveliest lady you could ever wish. She said, Bobby is a small child who was little Lord Fauntleroy. You know, he was all sort of, but his ability, I mean, you know, he glided, and Jack had nobly knee. Jack used to say, I won the ball, and I give it to them who could play like War Kid. And then he went off and beat 6 men and scored. It was a shame that later in life they become very distant from each other. And that was a great shame. But
the careers took different paths, though, didn't they? Really, obviously, their careers took different paths, didn't they? Later on in life as well, I suppose.
I suppose it did, but brothers are still brothers, and it was a personal thing. I know all about it, and it's not really. I don't want to discuss it publicly, but you know, it happens. It happens. I mean, Bobby become. It's all because you look on it and you think the superstar was Bobby, and Jack was this big centre half that managed the forerunner of Big Dan Burn, who managed to kill people and win the World Cup. The funny thing is, later in life, it completely switched the other way around. Bobby tried to be a manager at Preston and failed spectacularly, and Jack was a very successful manager, albeit not with us because we didn't like the style of football he wanted to play, but with Middlesbrough and with the Republic of Ireland, where they just wanted results and didn't care how they got them, because he moved the ball from back to front so flipping quick it was untrue, and never played through the midfield. So it wasn't great to watch, but it was effective. And so he had a career. And I went with him to the World Cup. You know, the only time in the 90s, the only time England didn't qualify for the World Cup finals, I thought the Chronicle won't send me. You know, the deal I had, Harry? I thought they're not going to send me. England, swine, England never made it. And all of a sudden they said the World Cup coming up in America. I said, yeah, I know. England didn't make it. He said, but hey, you'll still go if you want to go. I said, oh yeah. They said, they said there's a Geordie manager in the World Cup because the Republic of Ireland qualified. So I
remember it very well.
I went with the Republic of Ireland, and when they got knocked off, I hitched my wagon to Brazil and went the whole way around the rest of the country.
Wow.
But I mean, the thing with Jack, I stayed in the same hotel, and he looked after me. So at night time, I would go in the bar next to the restaurant and just have a glass of gin tonic before I went in for the meal. And every night I'd hear the door open behind me, and his voice would come in, and it would be a voice saying, "Hey, Gibbo, gives a fag, mine's a Guinness." And it was Big Jack. And now he never bought anything. I mean, he never bought anything at all. So I was supplying him with fags and with bottles of Guinness. And I said to him I said, "Hey, big man, how about you buying me a drink? You're in the big money with the Republic of Ireland. I'm just a little hack from Geordie land, like, you know. So is there any chance of you?" But no, you just laugh and say, "I'll give you all the stories, okay."
There we go.
when I got home from the World Cup, Jack phoned me up and he said, "Hey, Gibbo," he said, "shall we go out and we can talk about the World Cup and you can write a feature, you know, my thoughts on the World Cup." I said, "Oh, terrific." He said, "Will the Chronicle pay for it?" I said, "No." I said, "No, the Chronicle, no, they don't have that sort of money. They don't do that." He says, "Never mind, we'll still have it." He says, "We'll go to Harry Ramsden's in the Metro Centre and it'll be on me." So I thought, that's great. That's unlike the big man. Like, got there, and it turns out that Harry Ramsden's sponsored him. So we got
I was all free.
We got them for now because they were. So that was a big man, but happy days.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Obviously, you covered more World Cups. Obviously, we mentioned Maradona. Was he probably one of the greatest players you ever got to see live?
I mean, it shows how old I am, to be truthful, Bobby, because the greatest player I ever saw was Pele, who in 1970, after England won the World Cup in '66, we went over to Mexico, to defend it in 1970. And Pele was playing in that Brazil side, and they actually won it that year. It was the time of the famous double save by Gordon Banks.
Yes, I've seen it loads of times.
And that is the greatest side I have ever seen. That Brazilian side that had Pele in it. The centre forward was 5'6", and he only had one eye. Tossed out. He'd lost his eye in an accident when he was younger. When he played centre forward, 5'6" with one eye, and he was absolutely flipping wonderful.
Brilliant.
The best team I've ever seen in my life until I saw Newcastle beat Liverpool for the cup.
Yes.
But yeah, you look back, Maradona was sensational. I mean, absolutely sensational. Wild as it's possible to be. A complete wild man. But what a quality player. And you look at Johan Cruyff, and funny enough, later on, you look at people like Ozzy Ordiles and Ruud Gullit, and they were sensational players. Unfortunately, we didn't have them as players. We had them as managers, and they were hopeless managers. Barry, we always had great players who were hopeless managers. I mean, if you look at Ozzy Ordiles, and you look at Ruud Gullit, and you look
Kenny
at
Dalglish,
and you look at Kenny Dalglish, I mean, what I would have given to have them as players, and what I would have given to keep them away as managers.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, Ozzy Ordiles was the first manager under my season ticket when I first went to games when I was 9. And my dad took me to the games and that, and I loved it, obviously, because I was only little in that. But then when we saw what we saw later on, I was just like, Jesus, this is chalk and cheese. Crazy, wasn't it?
I noticed one of the guys just glancing while you were talking about it, long back to, did you say Eusebio? And yes, I did. Eusebio played against Newcastle for his club. And Pele played against Newcastle for Santos, but it was in Hong Kong. Pele played against
Newcastle. Friendly game, I'm guessing.
Yes, friendly game out in Hong Kong. He never tried a leg for 60 minutes, and then for a quarter of an hour, he decided to turn it on. He scored 3 goals in a quarter of an hour. And when he scored the third one, he put the ball on the centre circle, waved to the crowd, and went off and got himself subbed. That's how good he was. Eusebio was a fabulous player. He also played, Barry, in the 1966 World Cup when we were in the Northeast, and North Korea got through against all odds. I mean, North Korean football.
How did they get through?
And they went on and they played against Portugal, and I think there were 2 or 3 goals up against Portugal, and then Eusebio took over and scored about 5 or something. And but he was a panther, and he was a wonderful, elegant player. Isaac scores goals, elegant.
Scored again tonight and got an assist tonight as well for Sweden.
He's a bit useful, isn't he? 25 for last season, 23 so far this season, and 10 games to go. He's absolutely hopeless. We should sell him in the summer.
It's thanks to Arsenal for loaning him to us.
I mean, I hope they forget. Listen, at the end of the season, unless they win the Champions League, and I'm not expecting that, at the end of the season, what have they won this season? Nothing. We've won a national, domestic cup final. Why would you want to leave Newcastle for Arsenal? They finish second every time. Exactly. His second is nowhere. So he knows where his bread's buttered. There's our Alex. He'll stay up here, and they can all want to have him, but A, they can't afford him, and B, doesn't want to go.
Exactly. It's just stupid rumours. Leslie asks, are Newcastle going to Hong Kong pre-season? Do you have any insight? Because Leslie has got a son in Hong Kong, so she wants to book up and go.
Right. I think it's very, very likely that they will. They certainly want to go on a long-haul trip because they want to fly the flag and increase. I mean, yes, we've got Geordies all over the world and they all love Newcastle United. But if we can get the fans, and I've been over to Hong Kong 2 or 3 times for the sevens that happened over there when I went over with Wolves End Boys Club, and I went over a second time with Alan Shearer to do some promotional work in Hong Kong. And Alan was like swamped as an absolute superstar. And we have got a supporters club in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I think he's in Japan.
I keep hearing from them from time to time, and they come over and go up to St. James's Park, and they come out and buy me a little white wine, which I only have to be sociable, of course, as you would understand.
As you do. I met one of the ones from Japan.
As you have to do, mate.
Of course you do. I met one of the ones from Japan, Waza. He was a great guy. I brought him down to York to show him around where I live. And he's a nice lad as well. So we're everywhere now. It's great.
It's wonderful. And so I think it's pretty certain, until all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, you don't know. But it's pretty certain that we will be going out there.
That sounds like it. I'm going to bring you a little bit further back again. We signed Kevin Keegan, obviously as a player before my time, but being a journalist, bringing a Ballon d'Or winner to Newcastle. I mean, what was that like as a journalist? It's a journalist's dream, isn't it?
Sensational. And one of the biggest scoops I ever got, because Laurie McManamy, who was manager of Southampton at the time, had been a great pal of mine. He was at my 21st birthday party in the Egyptian cottage down by the old Tyne Tees television studios. Oh, wow. Because when I was covering Gateshead as a kid, as a cub reporter, which is what I was saying, he was coached at Gateshead. Right. So we'd become friends. He was from Gateshead. He used to be in the Coldstream Guards and stood outside of Buckingham Palace with a busby on guard outside Buckingham Palace. Laurie McManamy, who became a superstar manager at Southampton. And brilliant. It was said that there was big rumours that we were going to sign KK because he had a get-out clause in his contract. If you paid 100,000, they had to let him go. They are on tour in Scandinavia somewhere. No, Amsterdam. They were in Amsterdam. And I'm trying to get a hold of Laurie to sort of check what's happening with KK. I leave messages with his number 2, Peter Mortimer, etc., but couldn't get him. And I'm like sitting in the office fuming and so, what the hell do I write? Is he going to come? Is he not? Phone rings. I pick it up. in its lorry Mac, and it beep, beep, beep every few seconds. He's putting coins in a coin box in Amsterdam Airport because, of course, there wasn't mobiles then. So he's feeding it. And he just said, Gibbo, haven't got much time. KK, I've just put him on a plane. It's the British Caledonian. It's getting into Newcastle Airport, 12:20. He's going down to St. James's for a medical. 6 o'clock tonight, press conference, and they're going to bring him out. Cheers, pal. Now, hey, that's what friendship's all about, isn't it?
It is, definitely.
That is what friendship's all about. And so I had that story before Keegan had touched down at Newcastle Airport. And, of course, it just opened the door to everything, didn't it? KK.
I mean, what a season that was. I mean, again, I was at the Steve Rafe one where you were with Keegan, Waddle and Beardsley.
Oh, yes, at the Time Theatre.
Yeah, last year, wasn't it? Or was it this year? I can't remember now, but it wasn't that long ago.
It's just over a year.
Yeah, that was a good night, that one, and obviously you spoke about that season a lot, and it was great to listen to. Fast forwarding a little bit, Kevin Keegan becomes manager, saves the club from going down to the old second division. This is where the old third. Oh yeah, of course it was. Yeah, because we went into the first division. Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting my maths wrong because obviously the Premier League now and all that sort of rubbish.
Oh, well, those 20 days when we were nearly in the third division.
But this is where my dad kind of like he thought something might happen. This is why we got our season tickets when Ozzy Davis was in charge, and then Kevin Keegan. Obviously, everything just changed, didn't it? The city was reunited again, wasn't it? A bit like what it was with the takeover that's happened.
Yes, yeah. John Hall had just taken over with the Magpie group, and I was part of that Magpie group, so I was on the inside knowing what's going to happen, and it was literally a bloody fight for 2.5 years to try to buy all the shares and one thing and then it was really some of the stuff that happened behind the scenes was really frightening. And funny enough, I've just had lunch today with John Hall. He and those still around from the old Magpie group. It was a double celebration, today's lunch. One was we were all celebrating Newcastle winning at Wembley at long last because we're all Newcastle United fans and we're so thrilled at that. And the other one we're celebrating John's birthday, which was just a couple of days back, and he was 92 years old. 92. So
doing well.
Aye. So, but yes, the entertainers came out of that Kevin Keegan era, and it was just absolutely wonderful because about every month and a half, we smashed the transfer record. The transfer fee just smashed. And if you remember, the one thing he did, which was hugely controversial, he sold Andy Cole to Man United after he'd scored 41 goals in one season for us. None of them were penalty, none of them were free kick. They were all outfield goals. And he sold to Man U, and the fans were, you can imagine, the fans are, oh dear, I mean, wait a minute, it's like selling Isaac now. But the great thing with KK, he went out the front on the steps outside of St. James's Park and confronted the fans and said, keep the faith, believe in me, and I'll get it right for you.
Yeah.
What did he do? He bought Les Ferdinand and then he bought Alan Shearer. Now to show that, that wasn't bad replacements for Andy Cole.
It wasn't, was it? It would have been frightening to see what Andy Cole and Les Ferdinand could have done together, though.
Oh,
with Beardsley sitting behind them as a 10. Jeez.
And then by Shearer. Now, by the way, we'll have an overlapping goalkeeper if we feel that sort of side anymore.
Because we play goalkeeper. Two at the back, 5 in midfield. The rest of the strikers just get on with it.
Darren Peacock these days says, Gibbo, I used to be terrified. I was standing on a burning bridge at centre half, and he said I would suddenly see Bez, me left back, herring down there. I would see Steve Watson herring at the other side. Right. So I would turn around to say, Philip Albert, tuck in with me. And all of a sudden, Philip Albert chatting and chipping the keeper at the other end. He said, I'm standing by myself. And but I mean, happy days. And you've got to remember that we finished 2 successive seasons Premier League winners up.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, and by the way, That's our best finish since we won the title, which was 1927, which in a couple of years' time will be 100 years. They're our best 2 league finishes. So that's the standard which Eddie, bless him, who I adore, and has just won this first trophy for us, he's got to now beat and aim at the 2 runners-up positions, because that. And by the way, aren't I? I had John laughing this afternoon because I said to him, "You better cheer," and all. I said, "Aren't we cheering that this record of the entertainers goes? Because if it goes to runner-up position, if it goes, we won the title."
Yeah.
Because the only way you can beat finishing seconds to finish first, isn't it? So,
absolutely.
Hey, I tell you what, one of these days, my friend, and I hope it's in my lifetime, one of these days, Newcastle United will win the title.
I think it will be. I've got a sneaky feeling we're going to sign a few players this summer and give it a good go.
I think you're absolutely right, Barry.
I hope so.
We've had 3 bad windows, and you know what? What good clubs do, Barry, is they don't stand still. You don't win your first trophy, sit back, get a cigar out on a deck chair, a little chill bottle of white, and say, "Aren't we great? Isn't that wonderful? I'm reminiscing." What you do, and Eddie is terrifically like that. He's very, very ambitious. What you do is you set your stall out, because if we go to Europe, if we're getting the Champions League, this squad isn't big enough. This squad isn't big enough.
Not
so he signs in the summer probably a goalkeeper, right-sided centre-half, outside right and centre-forward. And by the way, centre-forward, before everybody writes in, slaughtering me, I don't mean to replace Isaac. I mean to
add to it.
The back.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to talk about Bobby Robson. Obviously, I named my son Jacob Bobby Thomas because of Bobby Robson. He was such a gentle man, an absolute legend of the Northeast. What was it like when you first met him? That's a good
met him donkeys years ago before he come to Newcastle.
I
met him when he was actually in Ipswich Town.
Okay.
Before the England job.
Yeah.
And he used to come up here. Think of that these days. Top managers. Brian Clough did the same. Bobby Robson used to come up from Ipswich, and you know how far geographically that's out with him. He used to motor up from Ipswich to the northeast to do a talking with me in a social club in the Durham area, which is where he was from, Langley Park, and then he'd motor all the way back. And Clough used to come up from Nottingham and Derby. He once come up from Nottingham, from Derby, Cloughy, picked me up in Newcastle, and we went up to Sea Houses and did a gig in Sea Houses, and he had a chauffeur driving them, and from Derby, and you went back in the middle of the night. And can you imagine top managers like Bobby Robson and Cloughy doing that these days? There's not nothing else. And Bobby become a close friend. And when he was at Porto, I went out to spend 3 days with him to write about the Geordie abroad. This is before he took the Newcastle job. Write about the Geordie abroad. And of course, I had to fly Newcastle to London, London to Paris, Paris to Lisbon, Lisbon to Porto. Well, inevitably, my bags got lost. I mean, there's no way they're going to follow me from plane to plane. Because I checked in Newcastle and never saw them again supposedly until I got to the other end, except I was in Porto and the bags weren't. So the whole time I was there for the 3 days, my bags, by the way, arrived 20 minutes before I left the hotel to come home. In the meantime, Bobby says, "Oh, don't worry, Gibbo. I'll give you some of my gear there." So he gave me a Porto tie. He gave me a Porto blazer with a Porto badge on, etc. So I'm walking around town, an Englishman with a Geordie accent, with a Porto blazer on with a badge. They thought I was the new assistant for Bobby.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
England, and it was me. It was just Bobby giving us his gear. But I mean, he was a joy to talk to and so infectious. And I mean, the only thing is you get well known, he become very well known for it. He couldn't remember anybody's name.
Wow, you say that, but he can read off names whenever he needed to, though, couldn't he? He was.
Well, yes, but normally they were the wrong names.
Yeah.
I remember
Cole
when
Court was the best one, wasn't it? Calling them Shawley or the other way around.
Yeah, he did. And he called Eric Gates when he was in charge of Ipswich. Eric Gates, he called Eric Sykes after the comedian, But he was. Jack Charlton was like that. Jack Charlton couldn't remember people's names. He said he just called. He had two of the greatest players around, Waddle and Beardsley. And because he couldn't remember names, he called them Big Lad and Little Lad. And Waddle didn't mind Big Lad, but Peter wasn't too pleased with Little Lad. But Bobby was just an absolute joy, an absolute joy. If we'd got him to follow KK, this would be a different club now.
Oh, 100%, 110%. And we had him, didn't we? But he didn't want to go back on his contract with Barca, is that right?
Yes, that's part of it. And the other part of it, I'm afraid to say, was that while John Hall was out talking to him about the Newcastle job, he found out that two more directors were elsewhere talking to Kenny Dalglish. He thought, if half the boards don't want me right from the start, what sort of chance have I got? And therefore, he opted out, stayed loyal to Barca. We got Kenny, unfortunately, and we start going on rapidly down. Like the grand old Duke of York, when we walked up to the top, we came back down again. And by the time we got Bobby, we had to start all over again. And he did it magnificently. We got up to third. There was one season when there was two sets of groups instead of knockout after one set of group. And we played about 14 Champions League matches in a season. And it was a famous time when we beat Feyenoord and Craig Bellamy.
Craig Bellamy in the last minute. Inter Milan 2-2.
Yeah, and Shearer was scoring in one.
Juventus 1-0.
Yes, which turned, I think we lost our first 3 games or something.
We did, yeah. We were the only team at the time to ever do that, weren't we? And it's obviously other teams have done it since, but we were the first team to ever lose the first 3, then win the next 3, and then qualify.
Correct. Absolutely spot on. So let's get back into the Champions League next season, because one of my greatest memories, I don't know you, and I've seen Newcastle since the 50s, and one of my greatest memories was beating Paris Saint-Germain for one.
I was there for that one as well.
Performance, it was just absolutely sensational. And I beating Barcelona up here 3-2 when Asprilla scored his hat-trick. Was another great one. But let's get those nights back.
Oh, yeah, we need them. They're the best nights ever. While we're still talking about Bobby, there's a good question here from Blade, who's a big fan of the show and used to be on it as well. In terms of raising a club profile, does a manager of Sir Bobby Robson standing or winning a trophy mean more? Tough on that one, isn't it?
Obviously, financially, winning the trophies what matters, because it opens up doors for sponsors, and if it's a domestic trophy that you win, it opens up the Champions League or whatever is to follow. I think the two almost go together, because if you've got a great manager, the likelihood, and I know it didn't happen with KK and it didn't happen with Bobby either, and I can't still believe that we never won a trophy with them two, because but it normally follows that you win a trophy, as it is followed with Eddie. 2 years ago, we were overawed in the cup final. We were starstruck when we were, we're here. Should we be here? We were overawed. This time we're clinically about ready and did it exactly right. But once you smash through that glass ceiling, which I think we have done, then anything's possible. And I would expect us to go on from that. And we've got the albatross from around our neck. Let's go on and not be a one-season wonder, but go on and do things in the future. And I honestly believe we will, mate. Now, I believe Yeah.
I honestly do. And I think with winning a trophy as well, when you're actually trying to buy players, you've got that in the bank behind you as well. You can say, look, we want to win things. This is what we've won. This is the start.
We can win things.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, it's twofold, really, Barry, because that brings players in, and it also helps you to keep the good players you've got.
Yes.
Because you can say to Isaac, you can say to Tonali and Bruno, you can say to Anthony Gordon, you can say to Joe Linton, listen, this is just the start. You're on a rocket that's going to the moon. Why do you want to get off? Aren't you going to stay and enjoy the ride? And they will believe you when something's happened, like winning the cup. Before you win a cup, they think, is this a bit fantasy island? You know, is it, or is it going to happen? Or is it just like confetti in the wind? But once you actually win something and go, boom, then these players will say, hey, I'm going to stay here. I can feel this. I can feel what the town is. Wait until our lot come on Saturday and see all the fans. And, you know, I mean, I'm going to be waiting at the end of the bus at the end of the day and say to Isaac as he gets off, do you want your transfer next week, son? And Joe, will you be going with Bruno and signing for, I don't know, Chelsea and joining the long queue with the deadbeats and the unemployed? Or are you going to stay here?
Love it. Absolutely love it. Obviously, the cup win, everyone saw your video. You know, the speech that you would give. Bruno did give a very good speech himself, to be fair, by the sounds of it, you know, saying that we're going to be legends. You know, we're going to go out on that pitch. We come back in this changing room. Whenever Newcastle win a trophy again in the future, they'll talk about this one, though, because this was the first one to start the roller coaster.
Absolutely.
And your speech was absolutely brilliant as well. I think everyone had loads of tears in their eyes when they were listening to it and getting fired up. It was just brilliant. I mean, the cup win, we have covered it a lot, but let's face it, it's fucking amazing.
I shouldn't get tired of talking about it. I mean, I remember on the final whistle, I remember welling up and thinking, big Jesse, you big daft lad, you know.
Everyone was crying.
I thought suddenly, a split second later, I thought, hey, I don't care. I've waited for this so long. I don't care. It's got to be emotional. It is bound to be emotional. And I must admit, every time I've thought about it since, every time I've watched particular parts of it since, colossal. I mean, what about Big Dan Burns' header from so far out? You know, it looked like a long-range shot. It was absolutely sensational.
And where's that come from him? Because let's face it, how many headers has he scored for us in the 3 years he's been with us?
I mean,
one
or two. You know, but he doesn't. And it's 6'7". He ought to. But I tell you what, Liverpool were clever, weren't they? They put McAllister onto him, who's about 5'4", and McAllister's looking at Big Dan Burns' belly button when he was marking him. You know, he was down. Burn just runs away from him, and boom! You talk about a mismatch. You talk about putting the wrong guy on the wrong guy.
Well, I don't think it was guy on guy. It was zonal marking, and I think this is where Eddie Howe was absolutely outstanding with his game plan, because they were practicing this corner apparently a lot, and they didn't have a lot of success in training apparently, according to Eddie. They got it right a couple of times, but Virgil van Dijk bottled it for me, because he should have said to Slot, "I need to mark that Burn. You know, I'm the one who can go up against him." Or Cody Gakpo, if he was on the pitch, he's tall enough to mark him. But the fact that they all dropped their backsides, stuck with the zonal marking, it just played into Eddie's hands with the tactics.
I mean, that's what Eddie looked at from the first game, or the one down at Anfield, and on the zonal marking. And we can take advantage of this if the delivery's right, and if the person. And I mean, the delivery was terrific. If it had snow on it. The power. And it was a running header, so you didn't take any power off the ball, and it was just absolutely perfect. And you know, you can train for those as much as you want, but it'll come right once, and you hope it's not on the training field. You hope it's in the match.
Exactly. Absolutely spot on. You know, the one time you want to get it right over 100 times is in that 90 minutes, isn't it? And it just worked superbly. And I mean, even the second goal, I mean, it wasn't a set piece, but it was brilliantly done.
Yes.
I mean, the two on the left-hand side between Barnes and Tino, the cross he dug out, Murphy to have, I mean, he out-jumped.
I was going to say, Murphy with a heading it down.
Exactly. And then it was Isak's movement made it easy for Murphy to pick his spot because he just jumped off the two centre-backs and then he slammed it in the corner of the net. And do you know what it is? At that point, I got more nervous when we were 2-0 up than when we were 1-0 up.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, just because you think this is a dream.
Too good to be true.
Yeah, a dream too far. It's all going to go pear-shaped.
Yeah. This is going to wake Liverpool up, this. They started making all the substitutions. They started throwing everything at us. I was just like, oh, please don't.
The only time, Barry, that I got nervous was half-time. We'd scored in 45 minutes. We'd massacred them. I thought, we've got to have one. We've got to score one before the interval because we deserve it and you've got to get that breakthrough. And then all of a sudden I thought, it's like poking a line with a stick. You know, I'm thinking they're going to get a bit upset about this. Like, and Slot's got 10 minutes to absolutely wind them up. And the funny thing is, again, that's where Eddie earned his money. Because when he got them in the dressing room, he got out charts and showed them. By the way, this season, the first 15 minutes of a second half, you've started slowly, and therefore we're on the back foot, and we drop deeper and deeper and deeper, and you can't defend for 45 minutes and keep them out. And it was 1-0 at that stage, so, you know, it was dangerous. But we started the second half like we started the first, on the front foot the whole way, and they didn't like it.
No, they didn't.
I mean, I don't think they expected it, and they didn't like it.
No, they didn't. I mean, they had a lot of the ball in the first half. They controlled the game quite well at times, but when we had it, we did more with it, and that was the key. We, you know, I say this to loads of people: you give Man City 75% of the ball, but what you do with that 25% is very important. And if you can nick one, nick two, you scare them, and that's what we did to Liverpool.
A lot of the modern way of playing, Barry, is people say, "There's the ball, you can have it." Because we are counter-attacking. I mean, Nottingham Forest are a huge example of that.
Yeah, they're brilliant at it.
You know, they never have the ball. If you look at the percentages, they're 30% or less. They never have the ball. But they're so quick on the turnover, once the turnover, and the fly. And that's where they catch out teams. Although I've been staggered by how well they've done this season, because we played them 3 times and beaten them 3 times. And so I look at them and I think, are they really as good as that? Are they really as good as that? And then they've got Chris Wood centre forward, and I think, well, they're definitely not as good as that.
He's banging them in, though, isn't he?
Or something, you know. But you can't have a season like that. I'm going to wait and see how many he gets next season. But good luck to the lad. He's an honest boy, etc., etc.
I liked him. I never had a problem
not as much as you like Alexander Isak.
Well, yeah, just a smidge.
There's a slight difference. It's about the length of the A1.
I like it. Right, let's move on to thoughts on Eddie Howe and the current squads, because we are coming very close to the end of the show. So I want your thoughts on Eddie Howe and the current squad. Obviously, a lot of talk about Eddie getting keys to the city, getting them a statue and all that sort of stuff. I personally think wait until his career's finished at Newcastle before you throw all the accolades at him, and let's see what else he wins.
No danger. I think the only way you can decide what is going to happen as far as statues is concerned, you've got to see the player play out his career, or the manager. And also, what if you put a statue up to somebody, and I don't mean Eddie here, I really, really don't. It's a sweeping generalization. And then the bloke does the dirty on the club and buggers off with it, and there's a big statue up there, like, and you're thinking, oh, you know, and there's plenty to. I mean, there is a theory. Bobby Robson's got a statue and won out, and Eddie's won something. But at the same time, Joe Harvey is won more than anybody, and he hasn't got a statue.
So he deserves one, doesn't he?
Oh, there's no question about that. There's no question. But let's wait on a start. All right, if you want to give them the freedom of the city, that's fine. A lot of people have got that from Newcastle, like Alan Shearer and Bobby Robson and various people, and Nelson Mandela. Who did he play for again? And Stevie Wonder. I'm not certain how Stevie Wonder got a freedom.
He got it.
Aye, it did. But there we go. But I mean, yes, you can do the freedom. That's fine or whatever. But on statues, let's wait till it's all over.
Yeah.
And Eddie might well get one at the new stadium as the most successful Newcastle United manager ever. And here's a thought: standing next to Alan Shearer on a statue could be Isaac if he stays here. If he stays here and continues scoring 20-odd goals a season, he'll be standing with a big man with the arm raised on a statue. Could be anybody. But let's not jump guns and knee jerk and give people statues before they've gone around the mulberry bush. We should wait on that. But I'm eternally grateful to them for what they've done. They've done it absolutely brilliant. They've burst through that glass ceiling. We have the basis of a very, very good team. I'm very anxious, and I know we're in good hands with Eddie and he won't do it. I'm very anxious that we don't rest on our laurels now and say everything will happen automatically because we're now cooking and we've got the first one. Because we'll have a season like we had when we went in the Champions League.
Yes,
we had a wonderful early match. Yeah, we had a wonderful early match against Paris Saint-Germain before all the tiredness set in and all that. But then the rest of the season was like treading through treacle. And we've got to have a bigger squad to handle next season. We've got to get at least about 4 guys in.
I agree.
Yeah, without a shadow of doubt. Because otherwise, if you stand still, Barry, you actually go backwards.
Yeah,
You're not standing still, you go backwards because other teams that'll be below Newcastle will build for next season and they'll overtake us, but we won't stand still this summer.
No,
we won't.
Definitely not. I mean, you look at Villa as a prime example, not just us that happened. We didn't just drop off. Villa have dropped off this season and they haven't stood still either. They've actually signed players. So it just shows you how difficult it is to balance the, a Champions League and a Premier League assault with a limited squad. It's so hard.
And I mean, there's people that could argue, and I would follow the argument, mate, but I want the glamour, and that's the Champions League. I want the glamour. But if we actually ended up in the Conference League, we could win that,
Oh yeah, we could win that, and we could also bleed a lot of players as well, couldn't we? Like
we're not going to win the Champions League, of course. We're not that daft. That's for we're that daft, but that's for the future. That's for the future.
Yes.
But we could actually win the conference if we don't make. I think we will because we've got 10 games and nothing else to play for. We'll make at least the Europa League, but we could win the Conference League quite easily. If it was about another trophy. That could be the next trophy, but I would still prefer us to be in the Champions League and look forward to the big lads coming to St James's Park.
Yeah, and it's also that thing when you're signing players in the summer. We've got Champions League football. We've just won a trophy. Where our aim is top 4 next season, probably top 5 again because we'll probably get 5th for the Champions League, and we want to win a cup again. When you're selling that dream to players coming in, you've got a massive chance of getting them, haven't you?
Because really, Barry, it's not a dream; it's reality, isn't it?
It's reality now. Yeah, it's not just the process anymore. We've won a cup.
The difficulty is selling a dream because somebody will go away and say, "Do I believe him?" Nah, no, it's fantasy. I don't stuff that. But if you say, "Listen, we are in the Champions League. We've got a trophy. Go upstairs and have a look at the trophy." Make certain your passports are okay because we're in the Champions League. It might be Real Madrid, it might be Barcelona, it might be Paris Saint-Germain again. It might be one of the Italian clubs. It's for real. Now, when it's for real, then you're cooking.
Absolutely. Final question. If you could sign one player this summer, no budget, no, he's not going to come to us because he's going to go there or anything like that, which player would you sign to improve the first 11?
Oh, dear me, what a question that is, Barry. First and foremost, it's what position. If you could only sign one, I mean, everybody said we need a centre forward because Callum Wilson, bless him's on his last legs, and we've got no cover. If he's got a 6 or 7 week injury, I mean, my blood runs cold now just saying it. I mean, so we need a centre forward, but it's not the crucial one. He's not going to be the guy that goes in the team. The goalkeeper might well go in the team. The right-sided centre back will certainly challenge Shaw to go in the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Inside right will start.
Yeah, that's the position for me.
Murphy's a lovely lad, but he's a squad player.
Yeah,
he's a squad player. So I think to start with, the position I would want is an outside right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Quality outside right.
Any particular name?
I've liked the Elanga that plays at Forest. Good player, quick. You want somebody that's quick with good feet, and that's important. So somebody like him would do is fine. But I trust in Newcastle's judgment on whether a player is good or not. How many failures have we had since the takeover I'm talking about?
None for me.
How many failures have we had? So I trust in their ability to get the right man. It's just they don't get enough. And we know why, financial fair play. But I would buy an outside right first. Yeah. That's crucial. But I wouldn't settle for that. I'd want
100% not. Well. Yeah, you want all 4 positions to be filled. I'll give you 2 names who I would 100% would love to see Newcastle sign. Jared Bowen. I know it won't happen, but he would take us to the next level. And then if we couldn't get him, it would be Mbeumo from Brentford.
He's a good player. Yeah, the bearded boy that plays out
wide. Yeah, he scored 17 this season, I think, from right wing. And he's got about 10 assists. I think he takes us again to that next level.
And if we go in the Champions League, I mean, I think both the Brentford kid and Bowen would come here. It's a different matter of whether the club will flog him.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But there's always a problem. If you don't try your arm, you're getting out.
Exactly.
If you're defeated, I mean, I don't want to go into politics, but you take the parade, we weren't going to get a parade, and all of a sudden we're now getting a parade. And the reason we weren't going to get a parade is because there was difficulty. It was the time of day, it was the traffic, it was shopping. If Newcastle under Eddie Howe would had that negativity going to Wembley, we would never have beaten Liverpool, and we wouldn't have had the Carabao Cup to start with. Shy Baines getting out. If you aim there, you finish below. If you aim for the top, you might just get there. But if you don't, you'll be 9/10 of the way up the mountain.
Exactly. I absolutely agree with that. Gibbo, thank you so much for doing this. It's been an absolute pleasure listening to your stories and asking you some questions. Thank you to the chat. I'm back tomorrow night. We do actually have a bit of a special show tomorrow night as well. We've got Lindsay on. We're going to hear her side of the story, what's going on with her band from St James's Park, and trying to find out if she's going to win or not. She's already beat the police, so can she beat the system as well? We'll see what happens. But thank you so much again, and we'll see you all again very soon.
My pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.